Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzy. This is the Farzy Show, presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. I did not expect these words to come out of my mouth today. Hey, did you hear what Kenny Gainwell said? Hey, did you hear what Evan Turner said? Yeah, I didn't expect to be talking about either of those names really that much in the offseason. Evan Turner is by far the more surprising. I didn't really expect much to talk about Evan Turner really ever again, but here we are. And the Kenny Gainwell stuff came out 2 days ago, and I really did not want to go down the road of rehashing what the hell happened. But after listening to it again yesterday, I have to, because there's one problem I have when it comes to the Eagles' collapse, other than the obvious, which is that they did collapse after being 10-1. It's that the word disconnect has so many different meanings the way Kenny Gainwell used it in this interview, and we'll get to it as the show goes on. Obviously, Phillies took a loss. They couldn't get the big hit. Third inning, bases loaded, nobody out, and all they could do is squeak out a measly one run off a sacrifice fly to right field in foul territory that George Springer made an absolute incredible catch. You know, here's the thing. George Springer doesn't make that catch. You never know what could happen. With one more swing from Kyle Schwarber, we could have been talking about another grand slam for the Phillies, but instead we're talking about them eking out a run in every inning they scored. It was just 1-1. That's it. Yeah. All you get is one. Bases loaded, nobody out, one run. 2 runners on, second and third, one out, one run. You will get no more. I understand the ebbs and flows of the game of baseball. That doesn't mean I have to like it. You know what I'm saying? So plenty to get into on today's program. Let's start it off with the Eagles because I want to get past this as fast as humanly possible. I don't like it one bit. It's when the Eagles, for me, when they sign, and I've said this before, but when the Eagles signed Saquon Barkley, I was like, oh, and hold on, here we go. Visual effect. For the people watching, ready? For the people on the podcast, this is going to be a nice, what do they call that? AMSR or something? This is going to be really nice for you. Ready? This is what I did. When the Eagles signed Kenny Gainwell, when the Eagles signed Saquon Barkley. Did you get that? Oh, I'll do it again. That sounds nice. That's me turning the page. You see? I was done with last year. I was like, oh, I'm very much excited about what the Eagles could do in this upcoming season. Let's forget about what happened last year. But the problem is you needed great leadership. And you needed someone to kind of pull everything together. So without Jason Kelce now on the offensive side of the football, with Jalen Hurts, a guy who apparently hasn't been, I think it's fair to say, not the greatest communicator, and without Fletcher Cox on the other side of the football, with Jalen Hurts on the offensive side of the football now supposed to take on a bigger role in the leadership and communication aspect, and Fletcher Cox on the defensive side of the ball not being there, somehow this is going to get better. There's one saving grace to it all, but this is what Kenny Gainwell had to say about it in a recent interview.
I think it was a connection piece, I say teams like the Chiefs, bro, are like well connected, upstairs and downstairs, front office and the locker room. Like everybody's connected. When you got that connection piece, bro, everything just clicked. When, you got guys that's not talking to each other, then, you never know what's going on, So like if we all sit down and talk to each other and find out what's going on, or we find out what we need to do on the field, to, get this thing going, then, we'll be good. Because if we play real hard at the beginning of the season, we need to continue to play hard at the end of the season, because at the end of the season what really matter. That's what really matters. That would really matter, because when we get to the playoffs, if we're not playing good and we still got our head down because we just lost 5 games, what you think we're going to do in the playoffs?
I'll fold. Yeah, you're going to fold. So there's a lot to unpack in that 45-second clip, all right? Upstairs and downstairs, everyone's connected. Guys not talking, great, and playing hard. The playing hard thing is what is really tough to swallow, because I think all this comes down to not just Nick Sirianni, and I think this is the common theme here. It's not just Nick Sirianni. It's Nick Sirianni's position with the Philadelphia Eagles. It's the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think the way Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman see the position right now, the connection piece that he's talking about, I think is supposed to be the head coach. And if you're not calling plays, if this year you're not going to be as involved in the game plan, if you're going to have an offensive coordinator that is truly in charge of the offense and a defense coordinator truly in charge of the defense with plenty of a boatload of experience in Vic Fangio, then what is it that Nick Sirianni is going to do if he is not the connection piece between the front office and the locker room? And the regular listeners and viewers of the show know that I harp on this because it is one of the strangest interviews, strangest things I have ever heard. But last year, while everything was falling apart, you know who stepped up to a microphone in front of his locker. And no, I'm not talking about A.J. Brown. I'm talking about a day or two after A.J. Brown broke his silence and Hassan Reddick addressed the media, and he said the higher-ups wanted to make a decision about a defensive coordinator change, about a defensive play caller change. They made this change. Now I'm dropping back into coverage. He's scoffing at the idea of being dropped back. Somebody's snickering at it. He's shocked that reporters are picking up on the All-22 about how confused everyone was with last-minute substitutions, guys not knowing where they're supposed to be, guys not knowing whether or not they're even supposed to be in on a play or on a down. And Hassan Reddick just opened the book for everybody. Hey, come on in. Everyone, look, check this out. This is a complete poop show is what we got going on here. So the only reason that I think it's even worth talking about is because if this is the disconnect, it's still here in Nick Sirianni. So I don't understand. I was all for moving on from Nick Sirianni and turning the page and bringing in somebody new and all that. That's where I was at. But the Eagles really like to have that guy that I guess they feel like they don't have to fully inform. And then that guy would then fully inform the locker room. And Kenny Gainwell talks about guys not talking to one another. There was the report about Desai and Hassan Reddick not talking. Although I think from what I hear, Hassan Reddick thought it was still pretty damn drastic for Sean Desai to be all of a sudden ousted at the play caller position, if you will, of defensive coordinator for the Eagles. Even he thought that was a little drastic. And this is at 10-1. You're 10-1, then all of a sudden you're 10-3, and then all right, let's make it official. Officially official. Let's make this change. The reason it's haunting is because I don't think they've corrected the problem. In fact, I think they've complicated the problem. They've complicated the problem now because not that the Eagles forced Jason Kelce out or forced Fletcher Cox out, but the problem has become complicated because two of the biggest vocal leaders in the locker room are now gone. So now this is supposed to get easier for communication to open up. It lies on a couple of things. One, let's talk about the huge elephant. Okay, the number one thing is win. You got to win, and I do believe that Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. I do believe, especially on the Kellen Moore side of things, he'll help this team win. I think he'll get the most out of this really stacked offense. So that's good. You keep winning, and people aren't going to be talking about why you're losing. So that helps. The other thing that comes in here is Jalen Hurts. All right, Jalen Hurts has to take that step forward. I don't need Jalen Hurts to grab pom-poms. I don't need Jalen Hurts. I don't think this team, more importantly, needs Jalen Hurts to grab pom-poms. I don't think they need Jalen Hurts to flip over a table. I don't think they need to have some shouting match with anybody. I don't think anything over dramatic. I think very subtle things need to change with Jalen Hurts. And this is coming from someone who is a staunch Jalen Hurts supporter. Thinks he's going to be back in the MVP race again this year. Very excited to see what Jalen Hurts is going to do in this very huge no-excuse season with everything that is at his disposal from an offensive perspective. Very subtle things. And the perfect example that I think it's a perfect example that I bring up is when it comes to communication, and Kenny Gainwell's talking about right here, players, not everybody's talking to everybody. When you send a text message, and I understand everybody texts nowadays, right? And that's fine. And when I have this conversation with John McMullen, we talk about it all the time. When it was time for Quez Watkins to actually get a lot more playing time with Devontae Smith being out, Jalen Hurts sent him a text like, hey, be ready. That kind of thing. Maybe that's something now for Jalen Hurts where he needs to go out of his way and do the arm around thing, where he's walking out with Quez Watkins to the practice field. They're saying, all right, hey, look, it's you and me this week. Let's go. Got to get it together. You, me, and AJ. This has really got to be a tough week. It might sound like nothing, but I think with players like that, not just to the player that he's directly speaking to, but other players around him, I think that speaks volumes. It's a very subtle thing to have that personal connection. If you're Jalen Hurts, I think one of the things you do this year going into it, realizing that there is no Jason Kelce. There's no Jason Kelce walking through that door. There's no Fletcher Cox walking through that door. Nick Sirianni apparently is not that connection between the front office and the locker room. And the locker room just looks at the head coach like, yeah, we'll just wait till you get your marching orders and then maybe somebody will tell us. I think they have to look at Jalen Hurts as the guy that is not afraid to have that personal connection with everybody on the team. Again, not pom-poms. It's not over there doing cartwheels, not flipping tables, not chewing anybody out or anything like that. But just that little tiny step that he could take to show that he is personable, approachable, and will help coach up his players. That's one little step that could fall on Jalen Hurts' lap. It's not a huge thing. And when he was asked about it a couple of weeks ago, when he was asked about what he needs to do different, he was talking about every team needs a different kind of leader. And there's different things that he could do to maybe take that step forward. And if this team needs that kind of leader, whatever kind of leader that is in terms of just being more vocal, more approachable, more personable, whatever the case may be, he's willing to do that for this team. Not to the point of stepping out of character. That's what everyone goes to the extreme of, Jalen Hurts do this, that, and the other. Well, yeah, okay. I think every great leader can still be a better leader. It depends on the team that is coming in to start that season. And that's what I'm looking at with Jalen Hurts. But the haunting thing from this is the connection. I mean, obviously, Andy Reid has a little bit more swagger and sway than Nick Sirianni, so let's get that out of the way. Got a hell of a lot more experience. Let's also get that out of the way. But he is a huge connection piece between the front office and the locker room. I said this at the time, and I'll say it again. When they made the decision to change from Sean Desai to Matt Patricia, that was astounding. Because I think what it told the locker room was, yeah, well, Nick's not making decisions here. I mean, come on. We'll be making the decisions from the front office, and we'll let you guys know how it goes. And if that's not the way it went down, then somebody needs to explain to me, number one, why Hassan Reddick would say that. The higher-ups wanted to make the call. And it was, the way he said it, he wasn't talking about Nick Sirianni. And then also, Hassan Reddick's not here. That's also fascinating. Oh, and he hasn't signed some mega huge lucrative deal yet with the Jets. He's playing for the same money that he could have played for here. Fascinating. Very funny how that works. So that's why I hate to revisit it. And I don't want to go back through the games after 10-1, and I'm not going to do that. I'll spare you that. But it is hanging over my head a little bit. And when I hear a player come out and talk about that connection piece, that immediately makes me go to the head coach. Because talk about all the things the role of a head coach is supposed to be. Connection piece certainly sounds like one of them. Especially if you're not the head coach that is, in the laboratory cooking up a new scheme or a new set of plays or, something to add to an already impressive offensive resume, That's haunting. And the idea that the Eagles could fall into that vicious cycle if after a successful season or at least a really good season where you get to the conference championship game and Kellen Moore gets hired off this staff and then you repeat the process again. It's off-putting. It's rather off-putting. It's the only thing that scares me. Also, this locker room was supposed to. Then finally, sorry, the last thing was playing hard. I think when we all watched the end of the season against the Giants and the play, you look at the Giants game and you go, come on, what are they really playing for? The Commanders ended up getting beat, so whatever. This is what it is. The game that ended up not meaning anything by the second half. That's fine. But then they played like that in the playoffs? James Bradbury getting turned like a carousel there? nobody really bringing it in that game. It was amazing. I was almost as if like you're not an Eagles fan, you're watching that and be like, man, this team does not give a rat's ass how they're playing right now. That's the message. That's what it looked like. And that is also what it looked like, yes, through the last 5 games of the season. It was pretty terrible. Pretty terrible. But again, hey, you win. You play well. You have good offensive play calls. You have good situational football. And all of a sudden, we're not talking about how this team collapsed. We're talking about, that was a bad scuffle they had for 2 or 3 games. Thank goodness they maintained the number 1 seed. No, this was an epic, historic collapse. Like since the 87 Jets, you got to go back to. That's pretty terrible. So the idea of playing hard, yeah, could see that. That guys not talking to each other, heard about it. Not having that connection piece from the front office to the locker room. That sounds like Nick Sirianni. At least that's what Nick Sirianni is supposed to do. Communication is one of their core values. Didn't see it last year. I really hope that we never have to talk about. This is all that needs to happen. Just win the Super Bowl, please. And then we won't have to talk about this stuff anymore. And please, no more. No more. The players come out, talk about avoiding last year and all that stuff. And one of the things I do look forward to in training camp, guys will get asked about how do you avoid doing that, And it's like, well, first off, we put that behind us. Second, we're going to win. We're just going to keep winning. Let's get to 10 and 0. Let's get to 11 and 0. Let's get to that. And then we'll be good. So once again, here it is. Turn the page. Here's something I did not expect to talk about today. Evan Turner and Andre Iguodala. Oh yeah, we're going to the Wayback Machine, baby. They have a podcast together called Point Forward. I just learned about this a couple hours ago, but they have a podcast called Point Forward, and everybody's got a podcast nowadays. So they're talking to each other, and they start talking about potential fits for some of these free agents, possible trades that could go down in the NBA. And one of the trades, or one of the free agents, could, of course, be Paul George. And we talked about him a lot yesterday with Keith Pompey and the possibility of him coming here. Also, the possibility of a lot of players like LeBron James or Paul George or whoever it might be saying, oh, well, the Sixers are interested in me and they have all that money and they can afford to pay me. So you better pay me if you want me to stay a Clipper, or if you want me to stay a Laker, all that stuff. They could use the Sixers as leverage, or for leverage would be more accurate. So Paul George coming here to Philadelphia, I think would be an incredible fit as far as the skill set that you need on this team. That's exactly what Paul George can bring. The question is whether or not he can stay healthy. And I already have another guy that I worry about whether or not he can stay healthy in Joel Embiid. To Paul George's credit, he just played in 74 games this season. He averaged over 20 points. He had a career high in 3-point percentage. All that looks great. It is a contract year, and I don't want to be fooled by a contract year. But when it comes to the skill set, and I know the ceiling he has, that's exactly what the Sixers need. But one thing that I found really interesting was Evan Turner talking about Paul George on this podcast. If you haven't heard it yet, here's Evan Turner talking about the potential matchup of having Joel Embiid and Paul George on the same basketball team. I guarantee you're not going to like it.
But then I'm just saying, because that's the only best option, because PG has a history of not showing up, which is an understatement. Just the other day, I never met a human that will let a media rumor drive his energy or personality. Like somebody was like, I heard he going to Philly. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to Philly, G. Do you know how soft that team going to be if him and Embiid go together? It'd probably be the most skilled duo ever since Kobe and Shaq. Embiid to be hurt and PG going to be Paul, though.
All right, let's get the positive out of the way. Be the most skilled since Kobe and Shaq, except you just can't rely on them. That's basically what he's saying. You know how soft that team's going to be? That's the other thing that jumps out to you. One is the positive. The positive is the ceiling I just mentioned. Oh, Kobe and Shaq? All right. Paul George and Joel Embiid on the same squad? All right, that sounds fantastic. Oh, but they're going to be soft as hell and you won't be able to rely on them late in the season. Oh, I don't like that part of it. They're going to be soft as hell? Great. I already have that concern with Joel Embiid. I really don't want that with another player that is going to be looked at as that third wheel addition to the Maxey Embiid run. Now, the positive spin is that, well, you don't need Paul George to even be Paul George anymore because he's just got to be the number 3 guy. He doesn't have to worry about even being the number 2 guy, just the number 3 guy. That's it. So maybe the downshift in, output, downshift in the amount of scoring he's going to be relied on to do, that'll take a downshift. It'll take a downturn because they simply won't need that. But if you're paying $45-55 million in that range, you kind of want a guy to go out there and score at least 20 points per game. If it's not an Embiid Maxey team, then you want him to be 25-30 points per game. And I don't think that is lying anymore in Paul George. If there's a concern there, and Turner played with Paul George, if there's a concern there about being soft and not showing up, then it feels like the Sixers are just on the verge of doing the thing that Daryl Morey said they're not going to do, which is, we're not going to spend a lot of money for just an okay player. Although Paul George is not just an okay player, if he's not playing, he's a horrible player because he's not doing the thing that makes him a player, which is playing. Same thing happens to Joel Embiid. If he can't play, then what's he worth to you? Joel Embiid, by at least playing in the playoffs, made it a series against the New York Knicks. Doesn't play in that series, it's not even a series. It's not even, forget about it. If you're going to sign a man to huge money, you want to know that he's going to be available. And when you look at Paul George, it's a little bit of a scare. Did I say a little bit? Huge scare as to whether or not he's going to be ready to go, but for the playoffs, whether or not he's going to be ready to go in the midst of a season. You look at what do we got? The COVID year, 54 games, 31 games, 56 games, 74 games. So let's see, 77 games in 2018, 2019, then 48, 54. 54 was the COVID bubble. 31, 56, 74. Little bit of a concern. Skill set's amazing. If we're playing 2K, then I'm excited to have Paul George. If we're not playing 2K and we're talking about real life, which we are, then I am concerned about Paul George. And all this could be for nothing because it's going to be a long season of speculation and rumors. And as Keith Pompey told us yesterday, guys' name being dragged through the rumor mill and guys' names being thrown around. So the 76ers name being thrown around because of the amount of money they have to spend. They want me. They can pay me. So you better pay me. And then whatever signing they make, now we just got to, if it's Paul George, if it's the Paul George signing they make, now we got to worry about them spending way too much money again for not getting a lot of output. Sound familiar? Tobias Harris. At least Tobias Harris, for the most part, was healthy. He just wasn't good. And when you hear, look, I understand that people can look at Evan Turner and be like, oh, this second overall pick bust and all that stuff, right? I get it. The Evan Turner, Drew Holiday-led 76ers, that was a thing for a second. Oh, look, what could these guys develop into? Oh, my goodness, it's going to be great. Evan Turner was the Evan Turner and Ben Simmons were the guys that we were waiting on to develop jump shots. It didn't work out in either case, as we all know. But Evan Turner has always had opinions. He was very opinionated when he was with the 76ers. I remember that. A couple of different takes that I won't bother getting into now, but just an opinionated player. And when it comes to the opinion of a former teammate, I find that very interesting that the word that jumps to mind is the mix of PG and Joel Embiid is soft. Imagine how soft that team's going to be. Not great. Not ideal. All right, let's talk about something that when it comes to the now, because the Sixers are making an acquisition now. The Eagles are not making up for a historic collapse now. Let's get into the now, and the now is the Philadelphia Phillies in a very disappointing loss. What could have been a nice little 2-game sweep of the Toronto Blue Jays ended up being a 2-game split. And what did I say yesterday? I said that the Phillies would win like a 2-1 game, that Bo Bichette would get like a home run off of Aaron Nola. He ended up getting an RBI single, so there you But what did I say? I said the Phillies, this is the thing I'm afraid of. This is how I know the Phillies will really be the real deal. When they don't allow the guy with the 5.45 ERA to beat them after they just chased the guy with the 1.44 ERA, best ERA in baseball, after they just chased him in the fourth inning of the previous day. Because it just feels like nothing more Philadelphia Phillies than we clobber the guy that leads the MLB in ERA, but we will bow down to Chris Bassett over 6 innings of work. That sounds a hell of a lot more like the Phillies that we know and love. Now, do I think this is going to be the beginning of a collapse for the Phillies? By no means do I mean that or think that. But watching them yesterday, I just had this horrible suspicion. And the suspicion came in the third inning when the Phillies had a bases-loaded situation. They had them on the ropes. They led off with 2 walks, so they were gifted 2 base runners. And then, speaking of gifts, Johan Rojas stepped to the plate with a runner on first and second, nobody out. Again, after back-to-back walks. And I thought, he's going to bunt. We're going to have him bunt here. And he laid down a bunt. He tried to lay down 2 bunts. And on the second bunt attempt, he bunted the ball, but then the ball bounced straight back up, hit him in the hand, hit him in the bat again, and he ran to first base, and they threw him out. So he did his job. He advanced the runners. But hold on. There's more to the story. It was called a dead ball, obviously, because he hit it twice. So now, instead of being second and third with 1 out, it's no outs, and Johan Rojas is still at the plate. And what does Johan Rojas do? He hits a little humpback liner to center field, softly hit. Bryson Stott, I believe it was on second base. He had to hold up, and he could not advance because he was afraid the ball was going to get caught. The ball was not. It dropped in, so he has to stop at third base. So instead of having second and third with 1 out, they have the bases loaded, nobody out, and Kyle Schwarber comes to the plate. Schwarber hits the fly ball down the right field line in foul territory. George Springer in out of nowhere. What's he doing? Did he make the catch? He makes the catch. Bryson Stott tags up, and he scores on the play, but there's 1 out with a runner on first and second. You have the top of the order coming up, baby. Come on. The Phillies have been mashing. Of course they're going to mash, right? This is where they're going to make them pay. At this point in the game, it was already 1-0. So you tie it up at 1-1. By the way, that Stott walk in the third inning was a 10-pitch at bat. He was down in the count 1-2, fouled off 4 pitches, and then forced the walk. That was vintage Bryson Stott. Sosa walked also. Then Rojas came up for the single to center field. Bases loaded, no out. Schwarber goes up there, gets the foul out to right field. Real Muto comes up. He grounds into the 4-6 fielder's choice. Rojas is out at second base. You got runners at the corners now with 2 outs. Bryce Harper steps up to the plate. Bryce Harper gets a sweeper down in the zone. The first 3-run home run from Bryce Harper. Down in the zone, middle of the plate, 3-run home run. His second 3-run home run, down in the zone, middle of the plate, 3-run home run. The grand slam, down in the zone. Grand slam. This pitch floated right into that sweet spot for Bryce Harper. He puts a decent swing at it. It looked like a recovery swing and or an emergency swing, and lofts it high into the air. And even Bryce Harper's like, holy, that's going. Let's go. That keeps going. Let's keep on. That's carrying. Dies with George Springer's butt on the wall, basically. Drifts back, can of corn, right in front of the wall. 2 feet. 2 feet short of a 3-run home run for Bryce Harper. Another 3-run home run for Bryce Harper. And that kind of took the air out of the balloon for me. And I know it was early. I know it was the third inning. But when you have instances like that, as good as the Phillies have been playing, if you don't capitalize on a bases-loaded, no-out situation and get anything more than a run, you got to put up a crooked number in that situation. The Phillies did not do that. They also had other opportunities to try to get some runs across the plate. 7th inning, again, only able to eke out 1 run in that 7th inning. And that was after Bohm led off with grounding out to short. Marsh got a single. Castellanos got a double. Bassett was then taken out of the game. They have a second and third one-out situation. Again, another sacrifice fly. Stott steps up there with a sacrifice fly to center field. Marsh ends up scoring. Nick Castellanos ends up taking third on that play. Anybody else almost in Major League Baseball, I'm like, oh, of course they're going to take third on that play. But Nick Castellanos is slower than cold molasses, folks. And Nick Castellanos goes out there, and he books it he tags up from second to third, and he makes it there fine. So you got a runner on third with one out. No, 2 outs at this point. And Clemens steps up, pinch hitting for Sosa, and he strikes out chasing a slider. 4-2 ball game at this point. Then the 9th inning, yet another chance for the Phillies to get something going there. This time, Bohm leads it off with a single off Romano. Marsh steps up there, grounds into the fielder's choice. So Bohm is out at second base. Marsh is at first. Castellanos goes down in his count 0-2. Gets a fastball away. Romano tries to sneak a fastball away on Castellanos. He tomahawks it into right field. And then Stott steps up there. And one pitch is a slider. And he just smacks that into right field for an RBI double. Castellanos goes to third. Clemens steps up. One pitch. Tries to jump on a fastball. Pops out to short. And then Merrifield flies out to the foul territory to Guerrero there at first, and that ends the ball game. Phillies end up taking the loss 5-3. Here's Rob Thompson on the Phillies homestand and how the team's playing overall.
Well, we've really played well. We played well on the road too, and today was one of those days. But I'm really happy with where the club's at right now. It's a really good homestand. I always say you got to win within your division. You got to win at home if you want to win a division. So that we accomplished that.
They did. They absolutely did. Now, I hate to say this because the Marlins are terrible at baseball, but I mean, I think oh God, the Marlins. Oh God, the Marlins are just a team that is a thorn in the Phillies' side. You don't want to see them do that horrible thing where they play down to their opponent, and that's really what has been the difference in great Phillies seasons and bad Phillies seasons. And I remember talking to Jason Stark about this a lot, is that a lot of times the NL East comes down to who's going to beat the Marlins. Are the Braves going to just absolutely tattoo the Marlins? Are the Mets going to tattoo the Marlins? Are the Phillies going to tattoo the Marlins? You do that, you just beat the Marlins with great regularity and you win the NL East. That's generally that's how it goes down. Well, the Phillies and Marlins are going to get underway tomorrow night. Phillies 26-12. They with the loss yesterday. And by the way, we'll get to Aaron Nola's performance in yesterday's game as well. But the Phillies go out there in the game yesterday, and they fail to win their 8th in a row overall. They fail to match their longest winning streak ever at Citizens Bank Park, 12 straight wins at CBP. They fail to even that number at 12 that has stood for 14 years. I really wanted them to get that. It might be not dubious or insignificant by any means, but a little obscure. Like no one goes out there like, well, this is going to be the year they beat the home win streak record. We don't really do that. But it would have been nice, especially with the way, hey, look, there's plenty of season left to win 12 in a row at home. Or 13 in a row at home. Let's get crazy. It's plenty of that. But when it comes to this team and how well they have started off this season, every accolade, every little milestone, every little feather in their cap is a nice thing to accumulate over time. Because as the season goes on, you want to look back and be like, well, yeah, hell yeah, we're hot as hell. I mean, look what we've done. We're doing all these things we haven't done since 2010. We're doing all these things we haven't done since 1993, since 1976. When you talk about what they've done through the first 37 games of the season, now 38, that's what you're looking at. For tomorrow night, Taijuan Walker will get the start against Trevor Rogers, left-handed pitcher. As for Aaron Nola's outing yesterday, the Phillies failed to get him the big hit, offensively speaking. Nola pitched really well up until that 6th inning. The unfortunate thing is, and I say this for both Nola and Bassett, one thing I will say, what the hell was a strike yesterday? That Machilski was the home plate umpire, if I'm saying that name right. It was all over the place. Generally speaking, the only thing that was pretty consistent was a strike at the knees was a ball. So that was at least consistent throughout the game. He didn't really ring too many players up on that pitch. If it was low in the zone and well within the line, like a full baseball within the line, the bottom line there on the white box we get at a strike zone on the TV, it was a ball, and it wasn't calling that. But if it was outside, take your pick. I saw Edmundo Sosa. I saw Bryson Stott. I think Guerrero did it a couple of times. Varsho. Just like, they thought it was a ball. They thought they had earned the walk, and they're like, okay, it is a walk. All right, cool. Just to make sure it wasn't called a strike. So that was a rather inconsistent thing. As wide as the strike zone was inconsistent. As short as it was pretty consistent. But it was kind of bonkers yesterday. A little all over the place. Not enough to call really much consistent other than being low in the zone. Inside, outside, wide, the width of the plate, that varied. The height of the plate, that varied too, or of the strike zone. That varied as well. So Bassett and Nola seem to have some struggles with that at different points in the game. The only difference was Bassett was able to get out of pretty much every instance without the big inning, so to speak. But Nola yesterday, they got to him in the first inning. That was just the RBI single by Vlad Guerrero Jr. And it looked like on that particular play, who was it? I think it was Springer. Coming around to score on that play. Marsh looked like he fielded it cleanly, and there was just maybe a little hesitation in gripping the baseball, maybe a little bit difficult, whatever reason, just trying to make that transfer from mitt to hand just didn't work out as flawlessly as we're used to seeing it from Brandon Marsh. So I think he still would have been safe, but it would have been a closer play at the plate. It was pretty close, but not, photo finish. And then later in the sixth inning, that's where they got to Nola, and that's just where he got gassed. The 96 pitches through 5 2/3 yesterday. Nola in that sixth inning gave up the single to Guerrero to lead things off. Got Justin Turner to ground into the fielder's choice to get one out. Then Jansen came up there and got the double just down the line there in left field. Second and third, one out. Bo Bichette came up with that RBI single to make it a 2-1 game to break the tie. Schneider fouled with another RBI single. It's a 3-1 game. And then Kiermaier responsible. Nola was responsible for Kiermaier, and he got, or not for Kiermaier, but the RBI that scored on Kiermaier's single to left field. So then at the end of that inning, it was a 4-1 lead in favor of the Blue Jays. They'd add another one, unfortunately, in the eighth inning on another Kiermaier RBI single. That was an infield single to short. So Phillies take the loss. Nola just did not look his sharpest, especially as the game went on. And I was hoping for a little bit of a better performance from Aaron Nola when it came to getting into that seventh inning, only allowing 2 runs. But for me, he's not the story. The story is that 3 different occasions the Phillies had an opportunity to really do what they've been doing, especially during the 7-game win streak, especially what they've been doing in the 11-game home winning streak, which is just blow it open and take advantage of the opportunity they have when they got ducks on the pond, and they only went 2 for 8 with runners in scoring position. The biggest thing that comes back to bite you is that third inning when you only got the 1 run with bases loaded and no outs. This lineup's a lot better than, especially if you tell me bases loaded, nobody out. Who do you want up? Oh, I want Kyle Schwarber up, because then I can go Schwarber, and in this case, Real Muto and Harper. Exactly what I want. That's where you argue philosophy and not success. Philosophically, you're going to score a lot of runs if you get those situations more often than not. Result-wise, you didn't. The end. All right, Phillies back at it 7-10 tomorrow. Hopefully they'll turn that corner and get back on that winning track, because I can't take back-to-back losses right now. By the way, the Phillies still, now they've split this 2-game series. I say that sarcastically, of course. Now that the Phillies have split this 2-game series, Phillies still have not lost a series in over a month now. Phillies have not lost a series since their second series of the season, when they lost to the Cincinnati Reds. How about that? They lost a 3-game series, 2-1, April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. That was the last series they lost, folks. The worst case scenario is they've had splits. Now go and spank the Marlins. Here you go. You got a 3-game road trip with the Marlins, then 2 games on the road in New York. So 5-game road trip in total. And then it's the split 4-game series with the Mets. 2 in New York, 2 in South Philadelphia. Then they host the Nationals for 3. And then they got the Texas Rangers to round out that homestand. Rangers 22-17 on the season. And yes, of course, the defending World Series champion, New York Rangers. New York Rangers. Thinking of hockey. Texas Rangers. Yeah. How about that? Hey, want to go to one of those games when the Phillies come back? Have you downloaded the Gametime app to your phone? Download the Gametime app to your phone, ladies and gentlemen. Have yourself a good time by going to the game and use promo code Farzy when you create an account, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase at the Gametime app. So download the Gametime app to your phone, use promo code Farzy, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. So if you want to go to the game, no better ticketing site, no better ticketing app to use than the Gametime app. And how about the Gametime guarantee? If you do find tickets in the same section or row for less money on another site, Gametime will hit you back at 110% of the difference on your Gametime app account. So download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase. You'll enjoy the flash ticket deals, the last-minute ticket deals, the guaranteed lowest price. They even have ticket deals for an hour after the event starts. So if it's not a game, if it's a concert, a comedy show, or whatever the case may be, you might miss the opening act. You might miss the middle, right? But you won't miss that headliner, and you'll see that headliner at mega huge Kajunga savings. So download the Gametime app, take advantage, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase on the Gametime app. Let's get into the chat check and see how you guys are doing on this fine Thursday morning already. See, you take Monday off, and the rest of the week, man, just flies on by. James Alexander, good morning. Phillies going to bounce back? I have 100% confidence Phillies are going to bounce back. Sean Kilrain, good morning. WC13, go Phils. We were connected when we went to the Super Bowl. Yeah, it's funny how that works, right? You get connected and you like think good things happen. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, IBH. Play-by-play with JJ. What's up, play-by-play with JJ? You're right, Farzy. I agree. I think I am right, too. April. Good morning, April. What's happening? Hutch. You called it, Farzy. Phillies light it up on a pitcher with an ERA, well, 144 when the game started. Couldn't put runs up on the guy with a 5.45 ERA. Yeah, it's a funny game, this game of baseball. Hard to believe, Harry. I know. By the way, shout out to Scott Van Pelt. Because I'm always curious, like the national perspective of a game, and I always try to catch the, whatever highlights they might be, whether it's the Sixers or the Phillies, whatever, Eagles, of course. I always just try to see how they frame it on a national perspective, and I'll catch SVP, and I do love SVP because members of the ball community. Also, he hails from the Baltimore area, and my mom's side of the family is from down there, so I got a soft spot for those fine people. SVP has tried to do Harry Callis on a couple of different calls. The Harper Grand Slam, out of here. It's not terrible. I'll say this, for a non-Philadelphian, it's pretty good. I wouldn't say if he came to Philly and did it, we'd be like, wow, it's a great impression. But I'm just saying, if we knew that he was not from here, whatever, and he's a national guy trying to give a little homage or hat tip to HK, it's pretty good. It's not terrible. Not terrible. I mean, here we'd be like, all right, dude, knock it off. But like hearing it on you're like, all right, not bad. Out of here. Not terrible. Not terrible. Family Guy brain. Sorry. Jason A, what's going on? Morning, all. JJ and the Farzy Show chat. I think that's supposed to be. Good morning, Sean Gillespie. Jason A. Great today. Hope everyone else is. Oh, you're on your way to work. Apologize for not starting sooner. It was like a half hour late today. I apologize. Oh, boy. Jason A. Paul George doesn't have the mentality for here. Ooh. Yeah, it kind of creeps into my brain. It's a good word for it. Besides defense, Maxey is way better than George. Oh, I agree. Super soft team with playoff P, says Sean Gillespie. Sean Kilray, haha. Evan Turner speaking the truth, Farzy. Evan Turner speaking the truth. I didn't expect, like, I got out of bed this morning. I didn't see the Evan Turner thing. And then I'm doing this, the scroll and saying, hey, all right, let's see what happened if anything happened overnight. And, oh, yeah, the Point Forward podcast happened. Andre Iguodala and Evan Turner. I'm watching it and I'm just like, wow. Andre Iguodala is, first off, I always respected Andre Iguodala for what he was, but Andre Iguodala was like the Sixers expecting Tobias Harris to be the leader without Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Like, if I can explain it, like if you're young and you didn't really pay attention to the Sixers and you're watching the show, back in the Andre Iguodala era, but Andre Iguodala was like, okay, look, this is the guy we're giving max money to. He's going to be our star. Let's ride. And everyone looked at it like, that guy's not a Met. No, what? And he's going to be the leader? No. And then by some, no, I don't want to call it that because guys got hurt. I don't want to go into that. But like, they played the Bulls in the first round that year. I want to say it was 2009. And Derrick Rose got hurt. And then Joakim Noah got hurt. And the Sixers ended up winning that series. And then they went on to face the Boston Celtics, the Paul Pierce Boston Celtics. And Paul Pierce, Doc Rivers, Garnett, Ray Allen, Sixers. Yeah, Celtics. Yeah, I think the Boston 3-party. That's another SVP reference. We're still jamming up there. And Drew Holiday and Andre Iguodala and Evan Turner and those guys, Evan Turner came after that. It was that was like, okay, well, this is as far as this team's going to go. They're very lucky to be here, but to get to a Game 7 against the Celtics, the fact that they won the first round series against the Bulls isn't that impressive because the Bulls lost 2 of their best players. The fact that they went to Game 7 against the Celtics, that is absolutely insane. But yeah, that's what I'll take away from the Andre Iguodala year. But plus, that was kind of the inspiration for the process because you knew you weren't going to win with Andre Iguodala as your core piece, and that would put you in basketball mediocrity and basketball purgatory. And then you had to really hit the reset button. They did that. I mean, they started the process after Iguodala was gone from here. And Drew Holiday was the beginning of the process. It was Andre Iguodala in the Andrew Bynum deal, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head. Because the Sixers got Mo Harkless and then ended up moving on. They traded him almost immediately. And he was involved in the Bynum deal too. I'll have to look that up later. Anyway, yeah, a little history lesson today, folks. Hearing his exit interview about how he doesn't care if he fails and there's no pressure on him, laugh out loud, I wanted to throw up. Wait, are you talking about Paul George? That's gross. Not the throw up part, the not showing up part, or care if you fail part. Okay, player sounded like a jab at Tobias. Yeah. You see Marlins, Jazz Chisholm Jr. landing is possible. Is possibly in Philly, Farzy, thoughts? I did not see that. That's one of those additions that I would be happy about because he just... No, hold on. I hate him. That's super celebration guy. Yeah. I don't like that guy. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, hold on. What do I associate with that name? And I'm like, oh, yeah, wanting to fight him. That's did I say fight? No, he'd kick my ass. He's a professional athlete, and I am not. Yeah, very talented player. Blah, blah, blah. I have to look at it a little bit closer, but I didn't see that. I am not a big fan of his. Just because I don't mind bat flips. I don't mind admiring your home run. But when you're acting like you're driving a car around the bases after a home run, like, you deserve whatever's coming your way, man. And that I do not enjoy. That is not one of my favorite things. I don't like that. But yeah, I'm not a fan of his. I know we talk about umpires every year, but this year seems the worst. Big Rhythm, I'm glad you mentioned that. The umpiring has been terrible. Last year, when all the talk, by the way, oh my God, Kruk had such a great line yesterday. Kruk's line yesterday was, they were talking about balls and strikes, and he actually said something that I've said many times, which is, like, what are we doing? Like, robot umpires. We're seeing a pitch that's a ball being called a strike. We're seeing a strike be called a ball right in front of our very eyes where it's not even debatable. Like, it's clearly, like, I'm not talking about pitches that are on the line and it's like, okay, that's tough. I'm talking about, like, outside, like the strikeout on Nick Castellanos. Nick Castellanos, I think on an 0-2 pitch, got a pitch at the knees. It's one of the pitches I was talking about where it was above the line in the square, clearly above the line in the square or in the rectangle, whatever, in the strike zone. Called a ball. And then there's a pitch that is far outside the strike zone called a strike, and he got rung up on it. And Nick Castellanos was like, dude, that is just, like, I can understand the one at the knees, but that is just horrible. That's like, I'm lucky to be able to get the tip of the bat on it. You know, just the tip of the bat on it. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, so Kruk didn't say all that yesterday. But he just said, we're going to have, in the future, we're going to have robot players, robot hitters, robot pitchers, and human umpires. And that just put my head in like a baseball battle bots situation. But then again, I'm a big dumb idiot. That's how my mind works. We're going to be better. There's no worries. The Phillies, yeah. Eagles, yeah. Big Rhythm. With the Eagles, would rather win 14 games looking shaky all season, like 2023, or win 12 games looking great with some tough losses. That's an interesting question. Big Rhythm, that's a really interesting question. Would you rather win 14 games looking shaky like you did all throughout last year, or win 12 games and looking great in those 12 games but having tough losses? I'm going to take the 12 wins. I'm going to take fewer wins. Because the 14 games, especially if you do that in back-to-back seasons, where it's like, well, they found a way to win, and we're saying that a million times throughout, that's not fun. That's a team that's hanging on, barely hanging on. Well, they found a way to win. Yeah, that's a cute storyline for like a month. For a season, that's scary. Because one of the things that really bothered me about last year, and I've hit this stat a number of times, so here it is one more time. Last year, you won 2 games by 10 or more points. 2 games. The year you went to the Super Bowl, the previous season, you won 6 games by 10 or more points. The point differential isn't everything, but it kind of tells a story. It's like in hockey, people will debate about shots on goal, whether or not it matters. I think it matters. It shows at least you're getting your opportunities, you're getting your chances. So that's not a bad thing. But when you're controlling, like the perfect example is also the Cowboys. Cowboys were great in point differential, but you also have to realize that their defense was scoring points. Deron Bland was just taking it to the house time after time after time after time after time. So that was a little, your special teams was doing great too. So it doesn't tell the whole story, but it does tell a story. The Eagles to have a great point differential this year would be awesome because that shows that you're controlling games. And that's what I ultimately look for. So, yeah, I'll take the less losses, but the comfortable wins. Stan Bruce, welcome in. How are you? Yes, umps are trash this year everywhere. I concur. Wow, Jason A. Yeah, huh? You're welcome. You're welcome. Drew Holiday, Evan Turner days. Man, time flies. Oh, thank you for telling me that, Jay. Hey, good stuff there. Jason A. on play-by-play by JJ. Cool. Big Rhythm, I agree. You and I are in rhythm, Big Rhythm. April, just tip. Yeah, just tip of the bat. Tip of the bat out there. Just tip. He could barely even get that. If he got anything, it would have been just the tip. I mean, this is the analysis you don't get anywhere else, folks. You know what I'm saying? Let's get to the morning rush. Thanks everybody in the chat. You guys are great as per usual. Let's get to the let's get to the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. But first, let me tell you about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsNation.com. As I mentioned, Phillies and Marlins. Phillies are back at it tomorrow night against the Marlins. 7:10 start time. Phillies now 26-12 on the season. Now just 2 games above the Braves. The Braves won yesterday 5-0 over the Red Sox. Chris Sale took it to his old team over 6 scoreless, striking out 10. He had it going for him. They won 5-0 over the Red Sox. Did the Braves. So the Braves are 2 games behind the Phillies now. Hot on their tracks, right? Hot on their tail. But 7-10 tomorrow night. Marlins, 10-29 on the season. They're coming off a series. They'll be heading back east after being out west, where they lost. They got swept. They got swept by the Dodgers. That's how that happened. So that's what happened to the Miami Marlins on that side of the tracks there. Brian De La Cruz leading them in home runs with 8. Luis Ariz, not off to the amazing start he was last year, 299 on the season. So there's that. And Jazz Chisholm, 236. He's hit 236 on the season. And he's got 5 home runs. It's a crowded outfield. Yeah, I think also the Phillies just love Johan Rojas. It's another thing there. Sean Kilrain. It's another thing there. As for the NBA playoffs last night, I hate saying this because of what he just did to the Sixers. Jalen Brunson's incredible. Everyone knows he's incredible. He's been playing at an incredible level. Last night he goes out with an injury, comes back in, and he just drops 29 points. Missed a whole quarter. Came back, dropped 29 points. Playing at an incredible level. I don't like the Knicks. And did you see this after the game? But I gotta tip my cap to Jalen Brunson. I don't even like Jalen Brunson. He spurned Temple. What the hell, man? Did you see after the game, Josh Hart went up to Reggie Miller because apparently they were chanting. Yeah, get this. New York fans were chanting something about, bleep you to somebody. What? Is that crazy? That's crazy. But Josh Hart apparently went up to Reggie Miller, who was calling the game, and just said, hey, I don't know if you heard him or not, but they're saying bleep you. Now, I don't know the relationship between Josh Hart and Reggie Miller. They could be best buds. I don't know. But I just thought it was funny that he made it a point to go over there and be like, hey, by the way, they're saying bleep you. I was like, I don't like you, but I respect you for that. That's pretty funny. And also Reggie Miller and Spike Lee, I think they exchanged front New York Times or New York Post covers, like bronzed covers of their old shouting match back in the 90s. That was fun. If you're old enough to remember that, that was a good time. Even though, the Sixers were just getting Allen Iverson and just starting to go on an upward trend, right? And the Knicks and the Pacers were going at it, and Jordan's Bulls were still very much a thing. One of my memories of watching the Knicks, not that I watched them with great regularity, but when I watched the NBA playoffs, was always seeing Reggie Miller and Spike Lee go at it. I always just thought that was cool. Spike Lee, I knew he was like a movie director, but he was a fan. And I just like the idea of a star player like Reggie Miller going after a fan. And then them going back and forth. And then there was the choking motion there by Reggie Miller when it was Miller time back in the day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. My name's Mark Farzetta. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on the Farzy Show YouTube channel. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. And for your Phillies post-game needs, catch me on the Locked On Sports Philadelphia Postcast channel. That's Locked On Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. I'll be bringing your postcasts after every Phillies game. Also, today, I'll be on with my friend Connor Thomas. Actually, I don't know when he drops it. I'm on his show. I'll be on his episode. He'll be interviewing me, I believe. Is how that'll work for the Phillies podcast on the Locked On Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. So make sure you guys check that out, like and subscribe for all that fun stuff. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My name's Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Catch you guys tomorrow. Bye.